Andrew! Andrew, what are you doing on that couch reading that crap? Get up off your ass! Get out there and get a job! You understand me?
Hello, Dr. Wood Surgery. Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to make an appointment, please.
Australia has the dubious privilege of having the highest rate of youth suicide in the world. In 1993, a United Nations Children's Fund report condemned our lucky country for these statistics, the worst in Western civilization. And while the overall frequency of successful adolescent suicide is 16.5 per 100,000, suicidal threats, attempts, and other self-destructive behaviours occur far more often. The rate of suicidal thinking is even higher. And in the country, the rate of suicide is up to 3 times higher still. Some adolescents with suicidal thoughts make detailed plans and/or threats of suicide. Those who plan or threaten are more likely to harm themselves or attempt suicide, and those who attempt are more likely to die as a result of a further attempt. Predicting which teenagers will join the nearly 400 who will die in Australia from suicide every year has been described as finding the needle in the haystack. But the bottom line is, adolescent suicides are potentially preventable if you can recognise and get at that needle. And the point of all this?
Hello, Dr. Wood Surgery. Can I help you?
Yeah, I'd like to make an appointment, please.
Is you.
Suicide, suicide. No place to run, no place to hide. All kinds of feelings left in night. Loss of faith and loss of pride. No one in which you can confide. Suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide.
Research shows that 60 to 80% of all attempted suicides attend the general practitioner in the months prior to the attempt. Adolescents do not go to the GP directly to express emotional problems. Rather, they tend to talk about minor physical problems.
I really don't like myself. Every time I look in the mirror, I really don't like what I see. Having red hair and freckles.
I suppose the main one's my height.
Oh, I have trouble sleeping.
Well, Doc, I've got this problem with acne and...
It's in your power to identify that needle in the haystack and identify those teenagers who are vulnerable, at risk. That, of course, is not simple. And the classic so-called warning signs that you've been trained to acknowledge take on an entirely new meaning with someone like Michelle.
Hi, Sally. Humpy. Humble. Yeah, man. Well, I just wanted to make this tape for you so that you don't ever forget me and you don't ever forget my voice. Okay? I don't whine when I see, and I don't have an Australian accent. So just get it right, kid. Look, it really worried me what you said today. I'm not being selfish by doing this. My parents are under so much financial worry that it's just not fair for me to stay around. And I can always go to another school, I know, but I don't want to. I don't think I could handle that. And it's not fair on Jenny if I do stay at school, because she's going to have to do without a lot of things. And what I do isn't going to affect anyone. I mean, Sure, they might be sad that they've lost a friend, but that's not going to last forever. A couple of days, if that. And they're all going to hate me something bad. You hate me. You yourself said I'd be a real bitch if I did that to you. But Sal, you've got to understand. Don't hate me, please. And it's not your fault. I mean... Oh yeah, right, Sally's paying me out. I'm gonna go kill myself. Yeah, good one. I mean, you don't pay me out any more than anyone else, really. I promise you. And when you do, I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad that you're talking to me. So, that's fine. It's really stupid. A part of me wants to stay so badly. Like, I've got debating next term, there's choir, well, I'm actually beginning to sound good, and there's soccer. And then I think of my future, and there's leaving school, learning how to drive, getting married, having kids, meeting new people, travelling. All these things, but I don't know whether... You see, it's my immediate future that I can't handle.
Just 14 hours after she recorded those words to her best friend, Michelle jumped to her death from a major city department store car park. Any adolescent who attends a general practice should be asked some very basic questions about their current state of mind. And any adolescent who visits you more than 4 times in any given year should be considered as a young person with an underlying emotional problem. Depression, hopelessness, suicidal thoughts, drug and alcohol abuse, and adverse factors in the family environment are all well-researched risk factors in both attempts and in completed suicide. But there are many other risk factors which you should explore with any seemingly vulnerable teenager. For instance, when you ask about their home life, listen for what they are really saying.
Since Dad's left, it's been really hard at home, and you know, they don't like me and they don't like my music.
See if there's more to school life than meets the eye.
I know they love me. I know they just want the best for me, but I just wish they'd leave me alone. Dad keeps promising me an international trip, but he keeps saying there's no money.
Suicide, suicide. No place to run, no place to hide.
But getting a teenager to communicate is often the hardest part. So, to help you with some special techniques on starting that exploration, Dr. Graham Martin, Director of Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services at Flinders Medical Centre in South Australia.
Adolescent depression often looks like the familiar adult pattern. Sometimes, though, the irritability, anger and outrage can lead to aggression, violence and property damage. Don't be fooled. Always check for depression. In medical school, we're taught to ask open-ended questions. But adolescents often disguise their true feelings from adults, particularly professionals. Open-ended questions can lead to a monosyllabic sequence, frustrating to both sides. So, Andrew, how are you generally?
all right.
You okay in your feelings?
Yeah.
Well, do you think you've got any other problems?
No.
No. Most frustrating is a sequence of, I don't know. How are you generally?
I don't know.
Are things okay at home?
I don't know. They're all right.
Mum and Dad treating you okay?
I don't know.
Our worry as professionals is that we might create something out of nothing by putting words into adolescents' mouths. I believe that's a myth. Young people are used to being challenged, and on the whole won't agree with anything that isn't true for them. In particular, they love to contradict adults. So if you think there's an additional problem, don't be scared to take an educated guess. Use a phrase like, "I guess that means," or "you look like," or, "Well, it seems to me..." Andrew, this is the second time I've seen you, and you seem a bit kind of down, a bit depressed.
Not really, I'm alright.
Are things bad at home?
They're not good.
Like people getting on your back?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. Is that mum more than dad, or dad more than mum?
No, both the same. Mum's just as bad as dad.
What sort of things do they get at you about?
Before I left school, it was school. Now it's getting a job. Now it's just everything.
That must be really quite depressing.
Well, after a while, being put down all the time, I think it is.
Once you've reached this far, a scaling question may be useful to help you understand just how depressed the adolescent might be. So how depressed do you think you get?
I don't know. Depends.
So if we had a sort of a line like that with 0 at one end and 10 at the other, and 0 was not depressed at all, like happy, charming, bright, and at the other end was really depressed, like the most depressed you can ever imagine anybody being, where would you be?
About 6 or 7.
Any answer over 7 or 8 means that the adolescent is likely to have had serious thoughts of wanting to die.
When you're talking to an adolescent, triggers may fire when specifics are addressed.
Sometimes it's easier to comment on something that you know about them already, or something that you can observe. Once you pass the first, "I don't know," things are much easier. Mum tells me you're having a hard time at school.
Yeah.
I guess your stage, the schoolwork's getting harder and harder.
Not really. Just the teachers, one in particular.
Remember that statistics show many adolescents visit GPs more than once for a seemingly minor ailment or perceived illness.
He went to see the doctor 5 times, complaining about worms. I think that he was simply trying to say that something was eating him up inside.
When you're trying to make contact with an adolescent, the temptation is to use their language. But don't try too hard, and certainly don't be insincere. On the other hand, if it feels comfortable, use the words that they might use. Even swear a bit if you think it's going to help. Has somebody been hurting you?
No.
Well, look, that bruise on your arm, that isn't from watching Home and Away. Someone's had a real go at you. If my dad was having a go at me, like I think your dad's having a go at you, I mean, that would really give me the shits. I mean, can we talk about this?
Yeah, okay.
So, how much alcohol are you drinking since it happened?
I don't know.
Well, are you getting really pissed?
Yeah.
Sometimes even the clothes young people wear, the magazines they read, and in particular the music they listen to, can be an indicator.
In one of our studies looking into youth suicide, we found a very strong association between a preference for heavy metal music or hard rock and the spectrum of suicide. There was a gender difference, with 70% of the males preferring this kind of music and only 24% of the females. Both groups were more disturbed, with higher levels of depression, hopelessness, suicidal behaviours, drug abuse and alcohol abuse, as well as aggression and delinquency. In addition, those preferring rock or heavy metal seemed more frequently to come from broken homes or dysfunctional families. Overall, the young women preferring rock or heavy metal were significantly more disturbed as a group. It seems that young people who are troubled identify with others feeling the same. When they listen to others' experience of pain and hardship, which echoes or resonates with their own inner world, they feel validated. The identification may, however, lead to problems, in that they then become particularly vulnerable to messages or influences from music, television, film, or friends.
So yeah, we had this guy come to school and he asked us how we felt about Mel committing suicide. Yeah, I thought about it because of her.
It's a classic picture for troubled young people to identify with and sometimes be influenced by Jimi Hendrix or Jim Morrison of The Doors, or more recently, Kurt Cobain of Nirvana. You said you were into music. What sort of music do you like? What sort of groups?
Well, I like Janis Joplin and The Doors. Jimi Hendrix is really good, and Nirvana, and Public Enemy.
Right.
Things like that, you know.
Right, Nirvana. That the lead guitarist, that Kurt Cobain, committed suicide recently, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. A bit violent, but...
Yeah. How come you like all those groups with people who committed suicide?
I guess that's not just a really good way to go. Like, at the age of 27, and you're at the peak and all that. It's good.
So if things got a bit rough for you, would you do it?
I consider it, yeah.
But music preference is not diagnostic in isolation. At one level, it's a window onto the world of the young person. Ultimately, though, it's only one piece of evidence which needs to be put together with all of the other information you gather. So, how much marijuana are you actually smoking?
Quite a bit. Sort of, well, at least about every day.
And is that a cone, or are you using a bong pipe?
I use a pipe most of the time.
Do you?
Yeah.
You must be feeling pretty bad to need to do that.
Well, I don't know, it helps me relax, and I don't know, it helps me calm down and forget stuff which I don't really want to know about.
So how do you put it all together? Well, as with any diagnostic process, it is the composite picture, the sum of the risks, which is important.
A young person with moderate or severe depression, a sense of hopelessness, a history of drug or alcohol abuse, a past history of acting out or delinquency, and suicidal behaviours is at risk. If the family are dysfunctional or not caring, or there is current conflict between the parent and adolescent, and if there are few friends or other supports, then the potential for self-harm is high. The recent loss of a family member or a friend or a revered icon may be the match that ignites the situation to an explosive crisis.
Well, I've been having trouble sleeping. It's actually been since my grandmother's death. I was really close to her, and she was about the only person who understood me and could help me. I really hate my mum because she wouldn't let me go to the funeral, and I just wish she was still here.
Suicidal thoughts on their own may not be a problem, but if you add to it a history of plans or threats, a previous episode of self-harm, or an attempt at suicide in the past, the risk score compounds. When you're trying to break through with an adolescent, you must like the young person, even when they're at their most difficult.
Look, I don't think I've got a problem, but my mum thinks I've got a problem. Now, I feel fine, I look fine, and everything else. But my mum wants me to come here. I think she's the one with the problem.
So what do you think I should do?
I don't know. You're the doctor. You work it out.
You must have time. Don't set about the process of identifying risks unless you're prepared to make more than the standard appointment time available. Privacy and confidentiality may be a problem. Never be sworn to secrecy by a young person when their life may be in danger. Be straight and be clear. If you believe that their life is in danger, you must let them know that you will do anything to ensure their safety. The content of the interview, that is what is said, may be private, but your opinion may have to be made public. Never carry the load alone. If you're in any doubt, discuss the situation with a colleague. This is particularly true if you work in the country.
Rural GPs may be the only local professional resource. A list of references and resources to help you cope with certifying death, dealing with the local community, family concerns, coroner's reports, even financial advice for bereaved families is contained in the printed material accompanying this tape. Suicide is quite unpredictable, but with an average of 140 million contacts with people, you're way ahead of any other primary health carer.
Adolescents are often transparent, but you have to be looking to see through them.
You're the key to helping to prevent youth suicide by making the time, making the effort, and recognising the signs.
Suicide, suicide. No place to run, no place to hide. All kinds of feelings left in night. Loss of faith and loss of pride. No one in which you can confide. Suicide, suicide. Suicide, suicide. You played the game you never lied.